Well, we are live. Well, I'm just waiting to get everybody else over now. You have to love the way Hangouts is solid, reliable product. Hey, Jen.
Yay!
This one's already live, so we know it's working.
So it definitely wasn't my fault.
I wouldn't go that far.
You know.
Hopefully, everyone has caught up.
I think Bill and Doc are coming.
Right, there we go. Yeah, and yeah, video and audio now there for everybody. Yeah, great, brilliant. So we don't have Bill. Fab. What have you been up to this week?
This week I've been working finally way more with developers in my team, and particularly on product. So like figuring out how to do SEO before even we build some products. That's been the main focus, and hopefully up to Christmas that will be the deal.
Yeah.
Good fun.
I must admit I like getting involved at the product development stage because you know you want to build the right features into the thing from the start to make it so that it's going to be easy to basically it's optimizing itself because it was built in at the foundation.
Yeah, and I guess the easiest way to do it is try to embed as much as possible engineers into the marketing team, so that like it's not one guy that is solving tickets, but like on some aspect they are owning SEO. Like I'm working with them and giving recommendation, but like it's them actually building the product first and also building something that works in search. So
yeah, absolutely. I expect Doc that you know an engineering background kind of helps there as well because you understand what builders need to know when they're speccing out a product in the first place.
Yep. You know, all the things that can come back and bite you in the back later if you didn't think about them in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I was discussing something with somebody yesterday. You know, the engineer's mindset has been a real boon because I've gotten to the point where I can't, even around the house, and I know I drive my wife crazy with it sometimes, but I can't look at it as something without considering the ramifications before we do anything. I don't like to think things to death. I just want to give it a little bit of thought, you know, before you try to reach up there on the top of that chair, you know, standing on a chair or reaching up to the top cabinet for something. Will the chair hold you? Is the chair stable? Can you handle the weight of the item? You know, it's always better to think about things like that early on. And my wife just rolls her eyes. Then I help her up.
Just get on the damn chair. I got that life insurance on you for a reason.
You know, like my daughter stood up on one of the dining room chairs to get something and went through the seat of the chair.
It happens. It happens.
The fact that it looks flat and will support your 18-inch wide butt does not mean it'll support 2 3-inch wide shoes, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Jen? How, you know, we always say, you know, it really helps to be involved at the product development stage when somebody's first coming up with a product, thinking about how you're going to sell it and knowing what you're going to need to do and building some of that in the first place. You know, we always say that helps, but how much do you like doing that part?
It kind of depends what what product you're talking about, but talking about this whole product thing, I was reading an interesting article on the weekend about there's a real problem with people raising money on Kickstarter because they're developing these awesome products. They're getting a lot of feedback from the community on their products. But by the time they actually raise the money and are putting it out in production, it's being totally knocked off, and you can buy them for like a quarter of the price from, sellers out of China and stuff. And it was because I was looking at a product for a Christmas present, and it wasn't going to be able to be shipped until April, which obviously is not helpful. You can't give your dad, say, hey, here's your present, but you're not going to get it for months and months. And then I got targeted by knockoff products of the same thing, like absolutely identical. And it's a major problem. And I don't know what exactly you can do about it, because Kickstarter is such a great way to get, raise money for these like some really awesome and unique products that normally wouldn't make it to the development stage, except this huge problem now of the knockoffs. I'm not sure how people are going to combat that, but that's kind of like my product mindset at the moment. Like, if you're putting all this work into something, is it going to be worth it in the end if someone's going to be able to buy it for, a quarter or a tenth of the price from China? Because a lot of times people don't care if they're buying it from the original source. They just care that they're getting it, or they're getting it for cheap.
Yeah. That's always been an issue. One of the first things I always look at in marketing is, what's the barrier to entry? What's the barrier to competition? How easy or difficult would it be for somebody else to just copy this? You have to think of that in marketing. You have to think about, this is why distribution is such an important part of the marketing chain. If you look at what happened back with the video standards, or back with the various forms of video discs, it was always down to who got the other deals, who got the distribution, who made sure that the movies were going to be on it, that actually decided it. It wasn't about how good the video recorder was or how good the video player was. It was largely about how much is this going to be the one that somebody chooses.
Yeah, actually the product I was looking at is called Fidget Cube. It's basically like this little cube that's like just has all the different things on it for people that fidget to play with while they're working or doing whatever. And I just did a search for it because I was going to link to it. And there's one of the top links is an Amazon link. There's a link to someone who's doing a knockoff. There's another link for a knockoff from Amazon that's paid for. And I think the majority of the results on this first page actually aren't the official thing.
Yeah. It's certainly a thing I've noticed a lot with eBay and Amazon, is that, it does make it a lot easier for the knockoffs to be out there. Sometimes they worry about the legalities and just change something slightly. It's still designed to fool you, but it's designed to be just about within the letter of the law. Other times they don't care at all.
Yeah, a lot of them, they don't care at all. Like, that's being sold as a fidget cube. And people leave bad reviews and says this isn't the official one, but how many people are going to go all the way down there and, notice that it's counterfeit, or that they care? China,
of course, didn't have intellectual property laws for a long time. The communist ideal was certainly that, all things belong to everybody, but therefore certainly ideas beyond anything else, do. You've got this great idea, but you got that from society, from your education. The country inspired that, therefore it's ours, was their view. And if you think about the way that copyright applies to work, if you create something on company time, it belongs to them because it was their resources and their time. They've paid for that time that you spent doing it. You can kind of understand why society might feel the same way. Personally, I think, intellectual property, from a communist view, you've got to regard it as a necessary evil, because if people can't benefit from it, why bother putting in the time and thought to really create a lot of things? It's a tough one. Doc, you look like you had something to say on that. You're muted.
I was muted there. I forget what I was going to say now, but basically, yeah, it's become a major problem. And I don't know, Jen, if there is any way to do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know,
I haven't bought one of these fake ones out of principle, but tons of people are when you look at how high it's ranked up on Amazon.
Yeah, the only way that you can really handle something like that that's so international in scope is by people voting with their wallets. And unfortunately, so many people, they don't care it's a knockoff. If it's $2 cheaper, they'll go for it.
Dave Pike just said in the comments that he remembered, I think it was the very first edition I did of my little series Ammon, where I was, giving people advice in real time. There was a guy, he'd got a product and I had to advise him, yeah, look, what are you going to do to stop IKEA producing this cheaper, faster, with mass production? What's your strategy to differentiate? How are you going to be the one people still prefer when somebody else can do it bigger, faster, cheaper? And there are ways, it's got to be about that personal brand. Apple actually is a little bit of a lesson here. They survived initially on the quality of video and DTP, desktop publishing. They were the artist's choice when Windows was an early runaway for success.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, it was much more about expanding that and becoming a brand, because they noticed that the artists were identifying with the brand. You set yourself apart as a real artist because you still used Apple rather than the generic PCs. And they built on that. And I've always thought that, that is a very good example of how to stand up against the bigger mass market, because the idea with Windows, of course, was, the idea with the PC was that anybody could have their own version, their own, manufactured version. The key to Microsoft's success was focusing on the software, not the PCs.
I looked at Apple's patents for Siri this week, and they have about a dozen or so patents that specifically apply to Siri. Was wondering how they would handle Samsung coming out with Viv, which is by one of the original creators of Siri, Adam Chayer. And it has its own unique aspects, but there are parts of Siri that are much more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Like there's voice authentication built into Siri that's patented. I've seen people try to make Echo do things by giving voice commands to it to tell it to do stuff. It doesn't matter whose voice it is telling it to do something. Same thing with the new Google Assistant. It doesn't have that type of voice authentication.
Yeah. I must admit, Siri has an advantage in that there is a personality. What you've got a voice, and people associate with that. They tried to build some elements of personality in. I don't think they're there yet, but it was enough for this early stage. And as long as you protect the voice, it's got an identity. So far, nobody's really wanted to rip it off.
And
however,
they do have a patent that targets that personality that does allow for the snide comments and the humor. They built that in.
Something funny about the Siri voice, she's also the voice of Princess Peach in the Super Mario games. How's that for good nerd trivia?
Yeah. I always wondered if there was a more humble version called Sorry.
But I think that ultimately, I get the point that if you don't build a brand fast enough, you could be victim of almost your own product. But then at the same time, probably for retail, you're at the mercy of distribution. But imagine for a tech product, you can, without even raising fund, you could almost start acquiring customer and then start building a brand like in a decent way, and then like not be as subject to that. But ultimately, is the value that you add, because in the same way, like people don't want to buy a fake iPhone in China, people don't want to buy fake Valentino clothes, and they come to Paris to shop them. And like yes, there will always be market for like for copycats, but you know, if you manage to build that value, which it's either like in terms of like actual value or as just as a brand, I think that stuff is you know, some stuff is almost noise or slash. I remember back in time there was a trend going on in like with Louis Vuitton fake products, and actually because of that search demand for Louis Vuitton was skyrocketing, despite them not putting huge efforts into advertising. And but yeah, like, well, it's not always a positive things that you get associated with fake products, but yeah, like if you build a value in what you do in your brand, your company, yeah. But those events happen, you know. I think one point on there, what Ammon said is like analyzing distribution before you launch something. So like I spent some time with a company that was building some kind of feature for a state agent site, and basically, yeah, they could have built a legit business, but they were not that careful in considering how the major player could have integrated that feature within a week, and the major player having the traffic and all the acquisition, and their ability to like take like even a 5% of that share, it was almost close to zero, and that's where like you know, you end up, you know, them creating that feature next week, and you building a company on something that will, even though it's a, you know, it's probably better built than what the other people would do, but you have no way that you can acquire customer.
In the search marketing world, of course, the perfect example of both sides is Overture, formerly GoTo, who were the first to really make pay-per-click successful for search listings. They were copied in the EU when they were still US only by eSpotting, and eSpotting were literally doing the straight copy. But you know, we're like them, but we're EU based, and we give you coverage here. Unfortunately, of course, when GoTo moved over, which of course they were going to do when Overture rebranded, came over to the UK, moved into Germany, eSpotting didn't have anything to set them apart. And this is where the difficulty is with following. Most deals only happen once. You know, somebody gets that deal. Being second to that deal, no matter how closely you're following, is no good. It's done. It's closed. Being the second is often just the first loser. However, they're an example the other way, Overture, because AdWords, Google's version, of course, is the one everyone knows. Nobody touches Overture anymore because Google locked in their search to just that one provider. They added a couple of small wrinkles, but to be honest, they are very small wrinkles. But it was the sheer dominance of Google that meant that AdWords is the one everyone uses. AdSense, you know, nobody's touching Overture because where's it going to get you covered? It's certainly something to consider when you're looking at any kind of product. You know, what is the end goal? What's your end coverage? Hey Terry, how you doing?
Okay.
What you been up to this week, Terry?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, your sound's gone. We're getting a lot of crackling, but no audio.
Okay.
Ah, there.
I think he's got a mic problem.
Could be.
He's got a headset.
Bill, didn't ask you yet. What have you been up to this week?
I've been busy with an audit.
Cool.
Mhm.
For an existing client or a new client?
For a new client.
Yep. Do you still, how long do you like to spend on an audit? I must admit, mine varies. I let clients decide what they can afford, and then, I give the most I can for that amount. Because for some of the clients, budget is an issue. For others, it isn't, and they kind of need to be advised on, well, how much is actually going to be useful. Yeah, I could spend a week doing an audit, but you don't need that. Some clients do, and couldn't really do with much less than a couple of days. Others, you know what, I can get enough of an overview in a couple of hours that we can at least know what's the most important area to focus right now, to get some easy wins to justify more budget later.
I usually end up around 30 to 40 hours, which provides a lot of recommendations and provides some possible future work.
Yeah, and of course, the size of the client and the complexity of their product and their market dictate a lot of that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A small e-commerce shop, you're not going to need more than 8 to 15 hours. But a large multinational product that is dealing with lots of complex markets in an established marketplace where you really need to understand the driving factors of so many different parts of decisions, you're not going to touch that with less than 20 hours.
In terms of using the time at best, one thing is probably for the client to be clear on how much development time and how much resources. There's no point of doing a 2-week audit if you not gonna develop anything until 3 months away, and also you have very little time. So basically, you can change what you're auditing, and then step by step. An audit of like that, and that is based on you developing for a few weeks is different on what you could fix in 6 months. But like sometimes clients are more likely to go, tell me everything that you can, but that's probably not the best use of my time, because and even the budget that you have, because ultimately you're not going to do everything that we're going to look at. And
One sec, I've got to see what Kristen's got on her head there. Is that kitty ears?
Yeah, you know why, right?
Yeah,
okay.
It's just for a moment, it looked like one of those sweetie necklaces. I don't know what they're called in the US.
Oh, that you like bite them, like. Yeah, I always get those for my kids.
Yeah, well, it looks
one
like
by one.
You've made a hair thing out.
Oh.
Hey, is this thing on now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, ooh, sound good.
Just one thing is, Bill, are you using Screaming Frog?
Am I using Screaming Frog?
Yeah, in your audits.
Right now. Oh, in my audits. Yeah.
Okay. I found it saved me a lot of time. Like, that's how I can do the cheaper audits now. If someone can't afford a big one, I can get an overview in a really, used to spend a lot of time just looking at titles because you had to go page to page.
Right, and I do a lot more than crawl with Screaming Frog, but it's definitely one of the tools I use, and it provides a lot of information.
Yeah.
I kind of use the tools for, say, a third of the audit, and a cognitive walkthrough, i.e. putting yourself in the position of various customer types, various personality types, and really taking a look through the site, putting yourself in that mindset, understanding what your intention would be in various scenarios and how well the site does with that. There has to be a lot of usability, because if the site's not converting, it doesn't matter what you're doing in search. You know, if people are arriving and not taking any action, then the only point in getting more traffic to that is to show more people how you're doing it wrong.
Like one thing, especially when you have very large sites, getting a sense on how people would use it and crawl based on that is very helpful, because most of the time I don't get anything out of it if I crawl the entire site, but then start understanding how people interact with this section and then crawl that section specifically for what I was meant to find out. That has proven to be otherwise, just get stuck crawling a ton of pages that won't change.
Yeah, and I must admit, a good chunk of any audit these days is talking through the client, because the other part I want to audit is their business, their capabilities, what their team have, how much time they have. Because again, do we need to focus on quick wins? Do we need to focus on swift things? Would it be better for them to outsource or to do in-house? You've got to understand their workflows and their capacities as much as anything else for that advice to then be useful. It's great to give people advice, but if they can't use it, that's no good at all. It's got to be useful. Yeah, Chris did stop teasing Terry. Yeah. Aidan in the chat says props for Screaming Frog. Absolutely, it is a great tool. The only limitation I have with it is, of course, when you're dealing with very large clients, very large sites, you start having to look at enterprise level tools that do it all in the cloud instead, because it just takes too long to try and go through it with some crawlers, unless they're distributed and cloud based. I wouldn't want to use Screaming Frog on anything much over 800,000 pages, and some of the sites out there you're looking at 15 million pages, and forget it. Screaming Frog's not going to do it.
Yeah, I ran into problems here a few weeks ago doing a site that had about 550,000 pages, and it really bogged down.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons that I still have multiple PCs, is that there are some things where I'm going to have to leave this thing crawling for 12 hours, 14 hours, and having second and third machines that are just geared for that. And are well optimized for handling the particular kind of strains of some tools, like plenty of RAM. It's essential.
When you're just starting out learning, would you suggest doing everything by hand, just so that you know, you fully understand what is happening?
Yeah, and particularly, you've got to know HTML. It really helps to learn CSS and JavaScript as well, because some of the optimizations that you've got to do are spotting small things that could be made better, where developers do a thing because that's the easy development focused way of doing it, but it's not necessarily the accessibility focused thing. As we know, the internet, there are so many skills involved. This is true of SEO specifically, and almost any field now, but development, exactly the same. An app developer is very different to an ordinary web developer, is very different to a database developer. Their skills all interrelate, but they've got a different focus, and they will think in a different way. The old joke used to be, the old glass half empty and glass half full thing. If you're a database developer, all it means is that glass was twice as large a field as it needed to be to contain the data. The issues that you kind of need to bring up are often, that's perfectly done, but there is a better way of doing it for this specific thing, and this thing being search, conversions, social, sharing. The URL technically can be brilliant and not be suitable for SEO. It's passing a load of parameters. That makes a lot of sense. It stops them having to use cookies. It stops them having to do a lot of data tracking on the back end, which can make their system faster. But we all know that too many parameters in URLs make for ugly URLs, a bad user experience. search and conversion wise, it's not right. So you've got to be able to spot those kind of little things and correct those.
Also, for SEO, a lot of times the actual fixes some complicated HTML thing that even some developers don't know. Like having a huge video on the front page. We were trying to figure out how to speed up the page rendering, while the easy part was you put the video into a inline frame, and now it's on a separate page, so the rest of the page can render without the video rendering. Things like that.
Yep.
Even web developers don't really think of it, but SEOs need those tools in their kit. That's why the people who do strictly link development, SEO, that's why they're doing link development SEO. They don't know how to do the other stuff.
There's certainly an element of people that have never really spent their time learning the development side. They've never really mastered HTML, JavaScript, CSS. And that led to, you remember last year, there was a lot of fuss where somebody had basically said technical SEO is dead, which proved they hadn't got a clue about how fundamentally important it is, because if you don't get the technical side right, yeah, all you're doing is throwing social media traffic at it. Because you're not going to fix what's broken.
Or the guy who wrote the article and said technical SEO's makeup.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Exactly that. And even going back years, Bill, that classic thing where an accessibility expert didn't like what was said at SES on a session there, misquoted several bits, and we tried to point out, look, SEO isn't snake oil. It's largely about accessibility. We just think of one more browser, one more user agent than you do. You're just worried about, at that time, Internet Explorer, Netscape. There wasn't even Chrome at that time. We're thinking also of Googlebot, T-Rex. We're thinking of user agents that you would not have gotten familiarity with. We understand that it doesn't have eyes. It doesn't matter how your image is done. It doesn't actually understand your description either. It's just doing text matching at that time. Google's thankfully trying to change this now. Bing is along the same way. But yeah, understanding the differences. I think a large part of SEO is still and always will be about accessibility, because these days we're looking at cross-browser, cross-platform development as well, and understanding how we can deliver the same intent, the same reaction to somebody across all kinds of screen sizes, across all kinds of capabilities of the machine.
I think that Jen probably knows quite a bit about this. I mean, you all probably do, but about AMP, like how different is it to develop like for an AMP website?
In terms of like creating AMP pages?
Yeah.
They have, it depends how simple you want it.
Like the plugins? Like
Yeah.
there's plugins, but you can do it manually. Is there an advantage to doing it manually rather than using a plugin?
I don't know if there'd be an advantage really. The problem with the plugin, a lot of people go and use the plugin, which is awesome because it makes things AMP, but they don't think about the fact that it is just like the bare bones AMP. So you really should go and add things like a menu to the top of the AMP page. You should add social sharing, for example, or comments or ads or related articles, like all these things that help make an AMP page sticky. And that's a lot of the things where people are complaining about AMP, where they're saying, well, people aren't sticking around, they're just hitting the back button. But if you look at their pages, a lot of times all they've done is use that AMP plugin and haven't done anything to it to customize it, to make it better branded, and to make it stickier, to encourage people to click on the page. And an important thing to note is if you have an AMP page and you're doing like related articles, you don't have to have those links go to the AMP version of those pages. You can actually have them go to the mobile version of your page if you'd prefer, where you can have more ads or pop-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, the other question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Above all of that, decide whether you need AMP. If it doesn't suit a business need, don't do it at all. Don't do it just because it's new. Don't do it just because Google tell you. If this doesn't absolutely serve a need, if you don't have a large proportion of mobile traffic, and you're not geared to doing mobile traffic, or more importantly, that mobile traffic does not lead to conversions, don't do it. Google
One
won't do it
area,
because it keeps it on their pages. It gives them a better service to their customers, but that doesn't necessarily mean it gives you a better service to your customers.
one
I
type.
have one other thing to that too. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
One type, if you have a recipe site, you probably really want to think about going AMP, because in the mobile search results, what they're rolling out now is they're giving like all the recipes, that whole top area for AMP only, because it's going to be the new AMP carousels, and they're quite huge. So if you're a recipe site, I would definitely look to going AMP for sure, because chances are you are going to lose traffic once this takes place. And the AMP recipe carousels, they actually look really, really awesome. Like, they're really appealing looking. But again, like I was saying, make sure that you make your AMP landing pages better than just the bare bones version that's it's going to give you.
It's one of those things again, yeah, it's great. Know how you're going to make your money. Make sure it's going to fit with your business. If your recipe site is ads driven, make sure you've got your AMP ads there, and that that's going to work for you, and that the ads are suitable for people who are using tablets and cell phones while cooking, because that's why those are so popular. There's a lot of people who prop up their tablet the way people used to prop up a recipe book. But they're not reading in the same way. They're actually cooking at the time. So, make sure that your ads work with that intent, work with that usage.
I actually came across a few sites that they have been too fast and they forgot that their ads were not loading. And which is fine, but then in a few weeks' time, they're going to realize that they haven't. I have one question, because regarding links, because basically there's an alternate version of the URL. And I guess in the similar way you specify the alternate on mobile, on app indexing and so on, what happened to all the links that goes to this alternate URL? Okay, Google can probably pretty easily match that these are alternates, but then it's still
as long as you have the canonical.
Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah, as long as the canonical is there, it'll work. And that's important actually for what Kristen was saying. Like, if you do it manually, make sure you put that canonical there as well. The AMP plugin will do it for you automatically, but it is important that, so if you do have links that go to the AMP URL, and that includes when it goes to that Google AMP URL. One thing Google has confirmed they're changing is they're making it so that when they're going to make it easier, I guess I would say, to copy the actual URL for the page instead of the Google AMP URL, because that's one of the big complaints.
It's like a poem.
Yeah, that's one of the big complaints people have. On the positive side, right now, while they do have the Google AMP URL of it, if you share it like on Twitter or Facebook or anything, it is going to show that it comes from your site, not Google's site, which is good. But they are going to change that. I don't know when, but that's on their map for addressing, because I know it's a big concern for webmasters, and it's preventing a lot of people from wanting to switch over.
Yeah, because I guess on app indexing hasn't rolled out to a degree where you get 99% of your site as app pages and so on, and similar to mobile sometimes. But then in case you have just a blog and 99% of your pages are AMP, you're gonna have links just to, a good portion of links will go to these URLs. But yeah.
Another part of Kristen's question was whether I would use a plugin or not. I would not use a plugin. I don't use a plugin unless it's something that I absolutely can't do myself. Otherwise, you're just a lazy person.
Sometimes
I knew that
you
for
have
you.
to use a plugin. Sometimes a scented candle is nicer, but sometimes a plugin is the only way to get that air freshener out of the room.
Yeah, but they also, quite often, if you find problems when you update a theme, what is the problem? Incompatible plugins, 9 times out of 10.
I mean, for people like what Terry said, like he wouldn't use a plugin, but he's more technical and could, implement it himself. For people like my friend who I'm helping, she's very technical. Like I set up her WordPress and everything for her, but I don't really want to spend all the man hours or girl hours or whatever
But
do
for someone,
all that
Human
work
hours.
for her when I can just do a plugin for her and be done with it, right? So for people that aren't technical or that just have their recipe blog that they post every week, it's not going to make a lot of sense for them to, sit and learn how to do AMP. And it's kind of pretty technical. So in that regards, plugin is definitely awesome and the way to go. But for people that can do it by hand,
how to build AMP pages, you have a service that's in demand in the future for sure.
There's an old saying that always applies. There is an easy way and a right way. Guess which the plugin is? It is. It's the easy way. Understand that it's the easy way. It's not going to be as good as precise. There are going to be issues, but it's going to save you a lot of time in the short term.
it's also easy to use a plugin if you just want to like test it across like a section of your site, and then see how users are engaging with it. Maybe throw up your menu or something, and then see how well it performs, and then go back and do something more customized as well.
But that kind of brings us in a way right back to Fab's point earlier about competition. Sometimes the thing that sets you apart is not doing things the easy way. Something I said ages ago when I did my presentation against just sticking Google Analytics on a site was SEO is a competitive business. I was talking at Brighton SEO. There are over 100 companies in that audience, all doing SEO, all trying to sell SEO, and they're all using the exact same analytics tool. And the thing I was trying to point out to them was, if you've got custom analytics, it can be a huge advantage, not only in the information you're able to provide, making it more personal to the client, but also as a tie-in. If they lose you, they also lose that wonderful reporting that they've got used to. Now, I learned this. Big Mouth Media, huge SEO company in this country for a long time. One of their best things is their reports. A lot of companies, they were the classic thing. There was this great big colorful report, lots of graphs, all kinds of data. Most companies weren't using it, but they didn't want a report that looked any less impressive at that monthly meeting. Because let's face it, that's all they were doing with it anyway. Oh, look, that looks impressive. They had no idea what it meant. Having custom reporting is sometimes an advantage in itself. Not doing things the easy way is sometimes that wonderful advantage. It's the thing of being bespoke rather than being mass-produced.
I also like to think that the best way to do things is opposite to what most people do, contrarian. Because if everybody's doing it and you're doing that too, where's the advantage? There is no advantage to doing what everybody else is doing. You have to do that plus more. And the people who can do plus more are the people who are in high demand.
And this is why Terry is an SEO and does not teach road safety.
I wanted to add something to what you said earlier, Ammon, about being sure that you need AMP, because I think there's another aspect to it too. For the smaller sites out there, particularly people that are not in our forum, that believe that anything that Google says they must do. If you've got a 12-page blog, you don't need AMP. You just need to learn how to work WordPress and get down into a 2-second or less load time. If you can hit that 2-second marker under, you don't need AMP.
Yep.
What say you, John?
There is a big drive to people using mobile, but that doesn't always mean that your customers are using mobile. Certainly not at the moment of shopping. Sometimes it's different stages. I've said before, a lot of purchases happen over months. And yeah, they're going to hit your site a couple of times on mobile, and it is an important step along the way, and you want that experience to be good. But sometimes it's a different part of the site, therefore, that needs to be set up for AMP. Sometimes that's the advice, the help, and support side, rather than the detailed product specs. There are parts of.
But you don't need to go AMP to get mobile. I mean, you can just go responsive, and you get your load times down underneath that magic mark, and you're in like Flynn.
Yeah.
John's here. Can he tell us? Is that the main thing, just the load factor, or is it other things that it with AMP too?
It's the secret hidden markup.
Okay.
Like in that AMP boilerplate, it actually has a legal disclaimer where you offer your soul to the reader.
Yeah.
I think maybe we didn't actually implement that. I haven't paid attention.
I know a lot of black hats who are really keen on AMP at the moment, because of course now they can have their pages on google.com, you know. Obviously Google approves of this method. It's a google.com page.
Well, if that's fishers are using it to try to get people to click links that it appears it's a Google, like a Google reset your password link or something.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with
Oh,
that.
my Google Home is talking to me.
Okay, Google, set alarm.
That's
4
Google
a.m.
listening in. That's not it talking. They're listening.
How are you doing,
Oh, man.
John? We haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. What have you been up to lately?
Not too much crazy stuff. Turning off the keywords report.
No, that was a sad day.
It had to be done.
Yeah.
It was time. Like, too many people are still in the mindset that like keyword frequency is the secret to ranking. Therefore, I need to have my keywords this many times on a page. Oh my God! I'm so sorry, Terry.
If you think about it, you know, when Google turned off page, we're not going to update the toolbar page rank anymore, it didn't stop people using it, and it hasn't stopped people using it, and even now it's completely gone. All they're doing, like I say, is chasing third-party pixie dust. The number of companies and SEOs who worry about domain authority when there is no such thing, or page authority when it's one company's opinion based on their crawling. It's not necessarily what Google uses at all. They haven't ever built up a database of how accurate are these links, how responsible are these links on this site as opposed to this. You know, they don't have that. Moz does not have any damping factor on its links, so we know for a fact it's going to be a completely different system. It doesn't stop it. It only kind of makes it, oh, look, Google were really worried about you knowing this, therefore it must be even more important than you thought, so now they can sell it for twice as much.
I don't know. I think to some extent people are backing off a little bit on some of these topics. So it's something where I see a lot of the more technical and experienced SEOs, they kind of know what they're doing. More and more, it's not like in the olden days where you just like try random stuff and maybe some of it works. Nowadays, from a technical point of view, you can understand pretty much how search engines work and what you need to focus on. So that's something where there's a lot of information out there. You can use technical information, logic, to kind of deduce what's happening there, and you don't have to worry about random pixie dust that, like in some random SEO tool, it gives you number 17. You're like, oh, if only I had number 18, then I would make a lot of money. Because it's just a tool. And
you could use knowledge and science and logical thinking, or you can just have a ghostwriter like some people do. Any old rubbish. Because let's face it, that hasn't gone away. You know, Bill and I were looking at one recently which had how Hummingbird was an algorithm that he had completely, you know, unearthed. This was Neil Patel. Yeah, Neil Patel has put out some good content. He's put out some awful content. He's got a lot of ghostwriters. He's a busy man. This was terrible. And, well, we already know Mr. Kim and what he tends to put out. these aren't small little offshore outfits anymore. You know, there are some big names putting out some complete nonsense still. So I don't know. I think your filter bubbles just got more effective, John.
I don't know. I take this opportunity to insert my blind squirrel joke here.
There are still a lot of tool companies that put dollars next to metrics, like oh, this keyword is worth X money, and like no, I'm ranking in position 1 or 2 for this keyword. I can guarantee you that it's worth nothing. and at the same time, you know, when they try to pitch you, he comes to me and this guy says, well, you know, I'm probably gonna save your job because you're losing £100,000 on this particular keyword, and like these kind of insights that, like, you know, yeah, this guy looking at a tool with like not an understanding of my side, my data, and just because they build some metrics next to the to those dollars, and but like it's terrible, like, because imagine a guy that doesn't know how to use the tool and relies on that type of metrics to like base their work, they're gonna be completely, you know, off.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of people that blindly rely on things like that. But I think more and more there are also people who really understand what's happening and who can guide you, like, a clear scientific path on what you need to do, what problems are out there. And even if you have everything technically perfect, there's still a really big range of things that you can do from a marketing point of view where nobody can really say, well, this is the exact right thing to do. And there's that kind of creative freedom is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something where people don't need to make up stuff and call it technical. They still have enough stuff to make up around marketing that makes sense to make up and to try out. I mean, not that they're just like pulling it out of a hat, but it doesn't need to be based on any scientific evidence.
It's one of the things that I love about marketing is the fact that it's not just science and it's not just art, and there is this beautiful intermingling of the two things, because you have to have the artistic side because you've got to move people, you've got to make people feel something, and that is always art, not science, really. And partly because, you know, there is that effect where if something's affected you once, just repeat exposure will not work. You know, oh, I'm used to that. I've experienced that. It doesn't work again. It's a bit like, you know, Coke have a really great TV ad campaign. If Pepsi put out the exact same campaign with their logo, it's not going to be as effective for them because people already saw it with the Coke one. You've got to understand those parts. But yeah, there is a lot of technical side as well. Let's face it, in influence, there are ways that people work, ways that people think that are quite scientific and quite different to what we feel.
I'm kind of getting a nice opportunity right now. Another company took over one of my clients, and of course they were back in less than a month because they lost a lot of traffic. And the biggest thing was, even though we got the traffic back to 15%, they removed all my CTAs, conversions down over 50%. Because they did not work CTAs into their pages. They took the exact same text though. That's how I know CTAs are so important, is you take the exact same page and remove the CTAs and conversion goes down by 50%. That tells you it's not just about driving traffic, our job. It's much bigger than that.
Oh yeah.
Especially because there's no tool that speak to customer and find out what they want and what to tell them. And I mean, you can get more. Probably in the past you could just make a couple of phone calls, versus today you can get user testing at scale and then test some traffic and like run surveys at scale. But still, you know, there's this level of qualitative work that you cannot just, you don't open a tool and find out how to.
But in some ways, that's an advantage because people, when you talk to them, always lie. I can get the data I need from Google Analytics that tells me the same thing as what that person's going to tell me, And I can rely on that because it's facts, not what someone has spoken, because people speak with a forked tongue.
They can indeed. I mean, the way we think, you probably know, I'm always interested in neuroscience, and the way people think is different to the way that they think. You know, we think of ourselves as very logical creatures, but more and more studies have shown that anything up to 90% of the decisions we made are actually made first, and then we create a reason for why we chose that. And we're actually doing it after the instinctive reaction and making it make sense afterwards. And there is a lot of that. You know, narrative is important. Sometimes you can play on the right narrative and help them make a better conscious decision. But a hell of a lot of the things we do in daily life are almost on autopilot. We do react on instinct. We do react without thinking a lot. Hey Dawn, how are you?
Very tired, very tired. So yeah, so apologies for being sat on my settee, but yeah, I've just a bit of a funny week this week. Got my discipline proposal results back, and I'm a bit disappointed, really. So there you go. Anyway, not to worry. I just thought I'd put my head in.
Yeah, you're not tucked up in a hotel room bed, so you're already doing better than Dixon.
Dixon's not here, is he?
No, but he last time he was in, you know, he was from bed. If you remember,
he played on a bed, wasn't he? Yeah, so yeah. Well, I will be tomorrow because I'm off to the Search Awards tomorrow.
Yeah, got your frock all sorted.
I have, yeah. I've got a nice frock. Yeah, I'm presenting an award actually, so I hope I don't fall over.
Yeah, no running off with the award. You have to give it to somebody else.
It's for PPC, so there's not much chance of that. So there you go.
It's. I must admit, I think PPC is a very valuable tool for learning with. If you're starting out in SEO, pay-per-click isn't a bad place to begin because you can really experiment with the conversion factors, learn what converts, which is invaluable then to what you're doing with SEO, because if your conversions are higher, you don't need to do as much with traffic to have a big effect on the bottom line.
And I think you definitely got to know enough about it to be able to work with people in those channels as well. You know, every project I work on, I kind of work with the people that run the PPC, so that, because obviously they can test things like descriptions, etc., and then we can implement them, and they kind of know what gets a better click-through rate, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
it helps an awful lot with so yeah, I think it's always worth like doing all the courses for PPC anyway. I mean, God, it's free for a start, and there's not many courses that are free, and I know that for sure. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of advanced stuff with it. Imran Sadiq, who used to pop in quite regularly, very useful for knowing some of the detailed tricks and some of the advanced capabilities.
Is he the guy that comes out with the crazy ideas? No.
Yes. Except when it comes to AdWords, then it's just good ideas.
Is he the one that came out with that idea about the noises in the graveyard? No. Remember the other week there was a guy on who said that you could have it so that you'd have like somebody who died could speak to you from. Do you remember the other week there was a chap who was on and came up with this bonkers idea about if you went into the graveyard, you could have your deceased relative's voice that spoke to you from the gravestone.
Oh, who was that? I remember that now.
Do you remember?
I don't think it was Imran.
Was it him?
No, I don't think.
I don't think so. I've got a vague memory of that, and
Yeah.
I think mostly my memory decided to selectively forget that.
Does anybody remember that? It was really funny, actually.
I think I miss it.
Everyone missed it. It's only you, though.
And he started saying, "Oh, it might get a bit loud in that graveyard if everybody was using them."
Yeah, it struck me as one of those crazy ideas, like, you know, oh, I know, let's have a gravestone that plays music so you can dance on somebody's grave, you know, to music. Yeah. That might actually work.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I'll be quiet now anyway.
Let's face it, there are no shortage of strange and let's call them wonderful ideas.
Oh, yeah. People never cease to amaze me with great ideas that they come up with. Yeah.
It only worries us when they happen to be about SEO or about how Google works, and sometimes some of them are just as crazy in that respect.
Oh yeah, yeah. But if they're well promoted, then they are not just crazy; they're quite dangerous, actually.
Right.
This is the thing. If they're pushed around a lot and they're picked up by quite a following, then they can cause some problems for everybody.
I gave us some extra time this week because of the delay starting, but I think it's about time we did a little roundup and then went off air for this week. So, Bill, what are you up to this week?
I'm putting together a website, product-based website. We were talking about those earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to give too much of it away. I want to protect the IP first before I do that, but it'll keep me busy.
Yeah, you can protect the IP all you like, and then some Chinese guy who doesn't have a country that responds to those laws and doesn't protect them, you know, will just rip it off anyway. Because we had one of those things earlier where somebody was saying, well, can't you protect it with trademarks and all the rest of it? No. What you can do sometimes is threaten companies like Amazon and eBay, of course, that, you know, if they stock fake ones, you won't let them stock the real one anymore. Or you can go after them for aiding and abetting, but good luck with that. They can afford better lawyers than you can. Yeah.
I've seen some of the numbers involving counterfeit products and how much they're claiming it costs companies with brands, like 5 to 10 billion a year.
Yeah, but as Fab was saying, sometimes it actually drives more awareness of the product and actually drives up demand. You know, there've been fake Rolexes for as long as anybody can remember. Going way back to the 50s, fake Rolexes were still a thing. It only shows how much people want the Rolex.
My father went to Hong Kong. He brought back a bunch of fake Rolexes. He bought for $1 or $2 each.
Yeah.
And gave them to my brother and I because they look good.
Yeah. But this is it. I think to an extent it only makes the person actually want a real Rolex more. So, you know, there can be an advantage to that sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll go along the screen as I see it, basically. Dawn, what are you up to this week, other than recovering?
Well, Search Awards, and then I'm looking at clients in London on Thursday. And then I'm coming back and I'm just locking myself in with my dissertation for the next 4 months. After that, not going anywhere other than I'm going to Italy in February, the conference that I've committed to. But I am nailing this thing now. So that's it.
Have you told the hubby he's doing all the Christmas shopping, the Christmas cooking?
Yeah, he knows. He knows. No, I've only got 3 months left, and I didn't do horrendously, but you know, when you kind of expect a better mark and you don't get quite what you expect, and you're like a bit annoyed. So perhaps been running around to too many places, Vegas and stuff. So I've just got to buckle down now. That's it.
Cool. Doc, what are you up to this week?
Oh, I spent the last couple of weeks converting sites over to secure sites and moving to a new host and SSL. And I'm doing that now for a client starting tomorrow, a little bit larger site with a shopping cart. So that's what I've been paying a lot of my attention to the last couple of weeks. Looks like probably the next week as well is mobile conversion and SSL conversion.
Yeah. I must admit, I noticed on Twitter earlier Matt posting, because The Guardian had posted a full thing on moving to HTTPS, not only why they did it, but how they did it as well. Definitely worth a read. I'd say catch that if you haven't.
Okay.
Fab, what are you up to this week?
Probably planning and then working with engineers for the next 2 weeks. I have 2 weeks left, and then on the 15th I'll fly back home to Italy. So I need to like wrap up everything that I can in these few weeks.
You're going home for Christmas, are you?
Yeah, I'm actually going
Or
to.
somebody's going to be fat in the new year.
Exactly. But I'm actually going to Rome straight after, so I'm spending the Christmas at home. Otherwise, my parents would delete my name from the list. But aside from that, I will then go to Rome. It's much nicer, and the weather is usually nice. Weather in the north where I live is cold, and yeah, it's not.
Yeah, well, you might get a white Christmas. There you go.
Yeah, it might sometimes happen, but I don't live. I live by the lake, so it doesn't snow that much. It's quite likely there is.
We don't tend to get a white Christmas really in England much. Sometimes it's grey, but never really white.
Last time was probably close to Easter in 2012, 13, something. Actually, it was snowing here in London, but I don't remember any other time. Yeah.
Cool. Jen, what are you up to this week?
Don't think anything in particular other than writing like usual.
Yeah. It keeps you busy.
It
John,
does.
what are you up to this week? You planning your Christmas yet?
Oh man, don't get me started on that. Oh, no.
You should see Dawn. She's already done her tree decorations, all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, I put the lights on a tree outside, and it looks like a marshmallow now. I have no idea. I'm not very good at this lights on tree stuff. Yeah. So I guess this week I'll be writing some more blog posts because we need more blog posts. That'll be fun. Also, what is it? I need to find some gifts for my kids. Figure something out. Something they're not expecting, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. Kristen.
I actually have something today. Right tag mobile applications are in the Google Play Store and the App Store for iOS. And we're going to be launching in Product Hunt tomorrow. So we're excited about that. If you're in Product Hunt, ask us anything. I can't say come join us or anything, or, vote for us, but ask us anything.
Oh, that and eating your head thing. Yeah.
Christine, what's that on your head, if you don't mind me asking? Just having.
Oh, okay. It's a political statement.
Is it?
Yeah.
It looks like a cat.
Yeah.
Post, you'll find it. Yeah. Sexy kitty. Yeah. Terry, how about you? What are you up to this week?
This week, I'll be probably working on 2 sites doing SEO. And I love the new client I have. All I do is teach people how to do things right. I love doing that.
Yeah.
Especially, they're pretty green too, so very moldable.
Cool. As for me, what's different this week? Well, one thing this week, I've reached out to a couple of YouTubers. I quite like gaming, and I quite like watching some of the YouTubers who stream. And a couple of those I noticed recently were trying to reinvent their channels, and I just thought, you know what, let's reach out and see if they'd just like to chat for a little bit and see what we can do, because I'd like to know more about their world, and hopefully I can help them connect with a different market, you know, develop their product. So that's me. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us this week. We'll be going off and chatting in private as we often tend to do. Take care.